Salute, comrades. You're now tuned in to the Unchained Truth, Voices from Behind the Walls. I'm your host, William Thomas McCallum Jr., founder and freedom fighter amplifying the unheard voices from within. This is the truth being unchained for those locked away and silenced behind the walls of injustice. The men and women whose voices have been buried beneath steel, stigma, and silence. This is their battleground for truth. Here, no one is overlooked, and their truths aren't ignored, erased, or rewritten. They're raw, unfiltered, and unapologetically real. Whether they're doing time for past mistakes or enduring the weight of injustice, their stories matter, and they will be heard. This is about human lives where dialogue needs to be sparked, reform needs to be ignited, and liberation needs to be demanded. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We're not begging for sympathy. We're building a movement for change. So stay tuned in, stay locked in. This is the Unchained Truth. Welcome to the revolution. Question. It's a platform for truth, growth, and humanity. Every story we hear behind these walls is a story the outside world needs to understand. So to our guests today, thank you in advance for being open, honest, and courageous. This is your space, and your voice matters here. Let's begin. What's your name, your oldest number, and where are you from?
All right. Well, my name is Terry Wright, and my opus number is
This call is from a North Carolina correctional facility.
0455133. And currently I'm housed at Lumberton Correctional Institution in Lumberton, North Carolina. But I'm originally from Mecklenburg. I was born and raised in Mecklenburg County, Charlotte, North Carolina, in my early years. And I transplanted to New York at about 14 years old and stayed there till around 20 and came back south.
Okay.
From there, my incarceration started from that point.
Okay. Mr. Terry, what were you convicted of?
This call is from a North Carolina correctional facility.
And how much time did they sentence you to?
I was convicted of armed robbery and was sentenced to a total of 233 years. Due to
Armed robbery. Oh,
yeah. There was three people was present in one establishment, and the judge gave me a sentence for each person, a 40-year sentence for each person, and I ran all three of them consecutive. And another establishment consisted of two people, and the judge gave me another 40 and a 25-year sentence consecutive, and ran those consecutive to the 340s. And then there was a robbery in Gastonia. Altogether, a total of 233 years.
So how long have you been incarcerated? In 1984 myself. So the year that you been, so the year that you was incarcerated was the year that I was born.
Well, I was arrested January 30th, I believe, of 84. Yeah.
So how old were you when you came into the system?
I was 33. And right now I'm 74 and a half, I call it.
And may I ask you, like, when you were sentenced to all that time at that moment, what was you feeling? What were the feelings that ran through your mind and your body, right?
Well, to be frank about it, I sort of expected it, a harsh sentence, because I'm not going to try to pretend that I had a clean slate. I had been in and out of the criminal justice system, since I was a teenager. And I had been incarcerated in several prisons for bank robberies when I was 20 years old. I did time for two bank robberies. then another robbery after I got out of that sentence. I was convicted of another robbery. So I felt that the punishment, would be pretty severe.
Yeah, because you already had your level. They sentenced you to your level.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, even though they didn't have levels at that time, but
Oh, they did?
No, they didn't have levels when I was under the Fair Sentencing Act. So they didn't have the level 1 through 6 like they have now. At that time, they were just fair sentencing, and there was a 14-year minimum and a 40-year maximum for robbery at that time. And if you had prior convictions, generally the judge would keep you for it.
But you're supposed to have a parole date, though, right?
Yeah, I have a parole date of January of next year. January of next year, I have a parole date. However, that parole date would not place me in society if it was granted. I still have a federal sentence after this. So I would be paroled to that federal sentence. And then once I'm there, I can, after going through processing, I can file for what you call a compassionate release. And the feds have a law, whereas if you're over 70 years old and you've been incarcerated over 30 years, that's counting your state institutions as well. That's federal. If you've been incarcerated over 30 years, then they grant what they call a compassionate release. It's like a mercy release, as long as you haven't been, really acting up with institutional violence and stuff like that. So,
well, however you need us from the Unchained Truth to aid and assist you in that, we would definitely be there to aid and assist you, my brother.
I appreciate that.
And let me ask you, do you have any children?
Yeah, I have one daughter. She lives in Atlanta area, Lawrenceville, Georgia. I have one daughter. Her name is Terry also. It's with an I. I have one daughter, and she has 5 children. So that's
okay.
That generated 5 grandchildren.
How do it feel to be physically absent from my life?
Yeah, well, I'm suffering the consequences now of the resentment that she's been harboring over the years. We kind of like it's attached.
This call is from a North Carolina correctional facility.
But I communicate meaningfully with, my grandchildren. But she and we haven't really related in probably 15 years directly, So, yeah.
Yeah, I know how bad you would love to have that father and daughter relationship.
That's right. Yeah. So I guess she just got tired of it. Yeah. Offering hopes that I would get out and keep my head on straight. And, like I said, got back out there and still didn't have my act together. So, she got tired of it.
This call is from a North Carolina correctional facility.
But she's doing good. She got a doctor's degree, she has her own office. And she's an evangelist as well. But she took care of very good her thing.
So, Mr. Wright, do you have anyone in society who supports you, like friends or partners?
Well, my sole support right now is coming from, a fellow that was exonerated in 2021. And, they had to award him a great, pretty nice sum of money last year. And he's been my primary supporter, at this point. I think people is familiar with, take money home. So, and, so I don't have to kind of lean on anyone else. He'd rather just take care of that because I was instrumental in the development of his case through the years. And back in court, do some petitioning that I did with you in the early days.
That's right.
So he got evidentiary hearings. He wasn't successful on getting back in court at that time, though. But it motivated him, and he used those records and stuff to, eventually get the Editors Commission to get into his case. They kind of incorporated all that together,
Hey, that's great, man. That's a big congratulations to Ronnie Long, man. I salute the brother and everything and all his accomplishments. And for beating the system, man, and standing up for what he believes in, which is himself. And that's the biggest person that you can believe in is yourself.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I say, he did 44 years, so I'm almost at that point. He did 44 years before he was in moderation.
Hey, Mr. Terry Wright, tell us about your childhood. What experiences, traumas, or conditions that shaped your path?
Well, I was raised by my great-grandparents. My mother, she was almost a baby herself when I was born. She was like 15. And she was 14. She was pregnant with me. And so she left and went to New York, right after I was born. So my great-grandmother, she raised me. My grandmother had already passed. So my grandmother raised me. During those days, during those times, in the one when I was born, but during those times, a lot of people, had to survive, with what resources they had. So she had what they all called the old liquor house, and she was a longshoreman. Yeah. She did all that kind of stuff. Although I wasn't living at the liquor house, but it wasn't too far from where we resided. She kind of kept a little space between us. And she did real good, as far as trying to keep my head on straight, get me to keep my books in the school. I keep my head in the school books.
From my understanding, you had a revolutionary past, too.
Yeah.
From my understanding, you had a revolutionary past, too, going on right as a child.
Yeah, well, that came when I went to New York. I went there, I was like 14 years old. And during that time, a lot of the civil rights struggles, the revolutionary groups and stuff formed. And I got involved with that, a Black Cultural Association in Queens, Jamaica, Queens, New York. And from there, there was a lot of older guys. I was like the young blood of the group. And a lot of the older guys who was in college and some was beyond that, they began to inform me about a lot of racial injustice, repression, stuff like that. Pan-Africanism going on at the time too. The guys from Africa and Black of America call this their kind of thing, So I got caught up with that type.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
That type of mentality, and I didn't have the type of mentorship to tell me, well, look, don't take that energy and channel it in the wrong direction. You know what I mean? It should have been taught to use that to motivate me to stay within the framework of society and try to make a difference. But it wasn't that way. It was about, go out there and get you by any means necessary.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
And like I say...
Hey, excuse me, hold on, excuse me, Mr. Terry Wright. Not to cut off your wisdom, my brother, but if you will, hang on, call right back. And
you have 60 seconds remaining.
All right.
Unchained Truth will continue.
All right.
The Unchained Truth continues with Mr. Terry Wright. And you were saying, Mr. Wright, you were saying that, your path, instead of going down a path of learning the societal ways of being successful and being a leader that way, you went on started the way with by any means necessary getting it on your own.
That's right. Right. And I was exposed to a rap group during that time. It was in the 60s. A lot of people didn't know that rap was functioning at that time, but the original rappers were the Last Poets. I don't know if you've heard of them or not.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Well, the Last Poets, they had underground albums that was circulating in the communities back during that era. And I was exposed to them. And they were very hard-nosed, revolutionary.
Yeah.
And so listening to those type of lyrics, and the energy that they brought, with the way that they propagated their rhymes, it kind of, caused you to kind of get out of the guardrails, of, of, of normal society, thinking. And so I took
This call is from a North Carolina correctional facility.
I took to the streets and learned it that way. I was under the impression that
This call is from a North Carolina correctional facility.
going to college or was not really going to benefit you the way it would others because people was not being fundamentally fair,
Yeah, that's right.
In the military, I felt that I would be going out there fighting against people who's trying to get the cloak off of them just like we were, So took to the streets, start hustling, had the mentality that if you get money and you got wisdom, then you can have power to make an impact,
Yeah. So. Hey, Mr. Wright, let me ask you something. Have you lost any loved ones since being incarcerated?
Oh yeah. Well, other than my daughter, it's really just me and I have a sister. I'm 2 years older than her.
Yeah.
But everybody else has kind of passed on. Mother, father, all the grandparents, most cousins. I have an aunt also, my mother's sister. She's about 89 years old. She's still alive. Matter of fact, she was a legendary disc jockey. I think President Biden gave her some type of award in the White House before he left national.
Oh yeah.
Lifetime achievement. Yeah, they called her Chatty Hattie.
Okay.
That was her radio name. But,
let me ask you this right here, like, when you due to the losses that you faced while being incarcerated, how did you deal with that grief and the loneliness or the trauma while being behind these walls?
Well, positive thinking, sometimes it might just be in people's nature, because I don't remember having any kind of course on it or anything. But I always had the mentality, no matter what, try to, adjust to unfortunate circumstances to make the best of it. So, thinking positive and not that resentment or negativity, poison my inner self. I always had that disposition about it. Being just both positive you stay, the more healthier, physically in
that's right.
And then I'm spiritual conscious too, because even though I had the feeling that during those times, it was taught to us that if they didn't treat you right, if they didn't teach you right, they sure that they didn't preach you right. So, but I still had the mentality that, that there was a God, there was this universe, there was absolute authority, it had rules, and so I tried to stay, more moral conscious, know,
That's right.
despite my situation.
And Mr. Wright, what has your prison experience been like?
What you mean as far as what type of work activities, achievements?
No, just like your overall prison experience. Like what has it been like for you? You know what I'm saying? Physically, mentally, and emotionally.
All right. Well, you know, earlier days it was educational. You know, towards like I say, the learning the science of human nature. You know, everybody is kind of like under a microscope 24/7. You know, you see human beings as they really are, unmasked. You know, so you know, and then you know that run its course, and then you realize too you got to have some type of intellect, some type of education, and a vocational trade or two. You know, if you got to run into hard times out there in society, you got to have a means of you know getting employment. So
That's right.
I went through all those developments. You know, and then it got to a point where that became obsolete as you get older. You know, well, everybody gonna hire me. I should be retired. You know what I mean? But yeah, and the law, you know, I got caught up in the law. I say, well, I'm out here dealing with the law, breaking the law, so I might as well learn criminal law, constitutional law. And you know, like I worked in the law libraries. I began to learn, you know, American jurisprudence. So that dealing with those type of minds, you know, judicial system is very scientific. So you start reading case rulings and the rules and maxims of constitutional law. Those things kind of help civilize you too. You know.
This call is from a North Carolina correctional facility.
Engaging with some of the greater minds in the society, you know, the stewards of the society.
This call is from a North Carolina correctional facility.
It's like a live magnet when it starts rubbing up against a dead piece of metal, you know. As you begin to engage, you know, you begin to start picking up too, you know. So I think that's one of the things I think contributes to me becoming civilized, becoming rehabilitated.
And Mr. Wright, what's something people on the outside would never understand about prison life?
Well, the reality of it is the strength that you have to have, you know, to navigate through this system and all the different levels of human beings that you have to deal with, you know. And getting in here also, you find out that they don't have a system of trying to really rehabilitate you. But, you know, those things that have to be done, you know, on your own. You have to be smart enough to, or instinctive enough to realize that you got to take upon yourself, you know, to transform your thinking, you know. So, you know, it's a reality that people cannot comprehend from the outside. It's like, you know, you can't stand outside this bathtub and get clean. And it's the same thing with this, you know. Somebody will have to really be in it to see the real essence of it.
That's right about that. Have you witnessed or experienced injustice, abuse, or unprofessional behavior from staff or administration?
Well, you know, that's part of the culture. However, once they see that you demand a certain respect, that you you have limitations on how far you go to, as far as in violating their rules and regulations and stuff like that. So once they see that you have the discipline to stay stay in your lane, and that you're not impacted like others, who emotionally get caught up, in trying to challenge them. Once they see that, they kind of they give you your weight, of, if you navigate the right mountain.
They give you a certain amount of respect, and you can see it in your feelings. And it's different from how they treat others, especially others that are not civilized, others that are not well behaved or have the sense of doing things the right way.
That's right. And then they also take notice that you impacting others too. Those that might be, a renegade, whatever, and they see you trying to deal with them with the head on straight. Because I was always told by the older heads when I was young that when you're in the lion's mouth, you tickle his throat. You don't scratch, kick, you know what I mean? They're going to bite down on you,
Yeah.
So, that's the lesson that I learned.
Hey, what rights do you think incarcerated people should be fighting for right now?
Well, economically, especially with the inflation rate and things like that, it's definitely for a higher incentive wages. I mean, guys in here still making 40 cents for cleaning up behind other inmates, cleaning up buildings, doing janitorial work. And, there's no real prideful jobs in here. They think you're high class if you're a barber, or if you're running the canteen or running the store for the prison. So there's really no quality jobs in here, unless you're working in enterprise as far as sewing plant or making tags.
And then they're not getting paid what they're doing.
That's right. So, but for the incentive wages, they was when I first came in the system in the '60s, 40 cents, 70 cents, $1 a day was the standard during that time. So, it hasn't changed. Still that today.
It hasn't changed a bit, but the prices are still going up in canteen and everything else.
That's a fact. And I think August the 1st of this year, which is next week, Friday, Saturday, they're going up.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
On items, although that's not 25% literally. I mean, it's already at 20%. So it'll be.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
5 more % than what the prices are in the canteen. So.
That's right.
Yeah. So. But they're not changing, the incentive rate. Really not.
Okay.
The public.
Hey.
Yeah.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Peace, my brother. If you will hang up and call out back, the Unchained Truth will continue. Back to the Unchained Truth of Mr. Terry Wright, my brother and comrade. Would you like to elaborate on that again? Would you like to elaborate on that what we were speaking about just a while ago with the 25%?
Oh yeah, definitely. As I was saying, the incentive wage is the financial income that's in the prison. Guys have to really depend on outside sources from family members or friends to try to provide them some type of finance, because in here the wages are so low that you can't even buy a soda pop a day. 40 cents.
It's pretty much impossible to survive.
That's right. And Roman guys have that financial burden, it's hard to get them to focus on anything else because they want to eat.
This call is from the North Carolina Correctional Facility.
The diner hall consists of a lot of processed foods. If you look at the menu, it sounds like it might be great hamburgers, and people will think that you really get chicken patties, and they think you get real whole chicken and real ground beef, and not knowing that it's soybean, other processed things that sometimes the cat won't even eat. You lay certain foods like turkey patties and have cats or stuff might come through the fridge and get over.
This call is from the North Carolina Correctional Facility.
You throw some of the food out there to them and they walk away from it. So you know what you're dealing with.
That's right.
But
that's what they subject those that are unfortunate to get paid or get funds from their outside resources. That's what they subject them to eat.
Yeah.
And these foods lead to high blood pressure, cancer, diabetes, all things of that sort.
And another thing that's about the culture is that they have eliminated youth centers in North Carolina. And so you have kids 18 years old, 19, 20 years old, and you assign them into adult facilities. And they coming into the adult facilities and they out on, they're not really cultured, they're not disciplined, they're hyperactive, and then they causing a lot of problems for themselves and for those who's trying to get out of prison, by keeping their kids on the street, and they're causing all kind of problems that way. And life without parole is one of the greatest mistakes they made in criminal justice system. If you're not going to give a man a death sentence, then you got to give him some type of future expectation of it.
That's right.
You have to have a parole date, eligibility date at least. It's not mandatory that he would get it or she would get it, but you got to have some type of future expectation of it.
And Mr. Terry Wright,
walking around with death by incarceration is that's a great mistake.
And that leads me to my next question, Terry Wright. Because I want to ask you this right here. If you had a chance to speak to lawmakers or to the public, what would you want them to hear?
Well, that subject matter especially because these prisons are steady becoming populated with life without parole sentences offenders.
That's right.
And people walking dead, they don't have no type of light in the tunnel. They wake up, they're miserable for the mistakes they made, for whatever, especially the young guys who made a lot of bad decisions, committed certain crimes, not being, duly informed or transformed in their lives. And they get in here and there's no second chance. I mean, so they're waking up frustrated. They get to a point where they don't care if they live or die. And then harming somebody else. What difference does it make? You're already in here for the rest of your life anyway. So.
And see, this is my thing right here. You're giving someone like that no hope, which is, what I'm saying? Because you're telling them that they don't have a second chance at being out of society, but you're telling them that they need to be rehabilitated. Rehabilitated for what purpose?
That's right. Why should I obey a rule or regulation? That's right.
Yeah. So, what are you doing here?
That's right. So they strike back, with a volatile attitude, with a hostile attitude, and like I say, they feel like it's us against them,
That's right.
And everybody who don't have life is really, they become envious of you too, just because you have a probability of getting out, So that's right. They could stab and warehousing them. it's like a war, you know.
And Mr. Wright, we were just speaking about the youth and everything coming to the prison system, and they're coming in with all that energy and that undisciplined behavior. But let me ask you this right here: what would you say to the young people who are being misled or turning to crime because of poverty, trauma, or pressure that's on the path of becoming incarcerated?
Right, right. Well, that's a great problem too, because you don't have enough mentors out there, that's been experienced in the system and given a chance to become a counselor or in some type of position to try to provide a safety net for those who's
This call is from the North Carolina Correctional Facility.
What happens is that if you take guys that have did time, long sentences, and you set up some type of mental program for them to be able to come out there and be trained, to go out into the communities or into the juvenile delinquent centers and stuff, and talk to these kids about the real consequences, for bad behavior. And to pay guys, to do this work, it would probably save a lot of lives.
This call is from the North Carolina Correctional Facility.
Who've never been in prison, to try to talk to them it's like deaf ears, because they feel that you haven't paid your dues to be able to educate them or to tell them what they should not do, what the consequences is for their actions.
Okay, excuse me. Okay, so my question is, what would you say to them? If you were that one in position to speak with them, and you had them in front of you, you had a room full of youth, encourageable youth, what would you say to them?
First of all, let them know that.
Say to them to uplift them?
Well, the main thing I would try to focus on is letting them know that they need to avoid peer pressure. You have, in the communities, you try to go along to get along. When you're young, you're trying to, earn your stripes or earn respect or be accepted. And most of the time, the young thugs are the ones that got the greatest influence over the ones who are trying to, do right or try to get some education. And the thugs, will be ready to roll up on them and beat them up or threaten them, because they're not a part of the in crowd. And so what happens is that y'all are young guys who wants to try to do the right thing, when they see that thug life is rubbing up against them more harder than going straight, and they start going along to get along. So to be able to let them know, despite the peer pressure, that you still gonna have to be firm on taking your goals and trying to achieve a better life for yourself and for your family, because the consequences of going down the wrong road is like what you and I can both say. You get to a point where you get old and you don't have those Social Security benefits. You don't have a retirement pension plan set up in your life. You got to just try to depend on what you can hustle up. And most of the time, like that's going to end up in the criminal justice system, in prisons and jails. So what little money you do get out there hustling, it's going to be used up anyway to take care of you while you're in prison, or to pay lawyers fees, or get out on bond. So And then you lose the cohesiveness with your family members because once they see that you don't have your head on straight, then they become disattached. They don't want to take part in what you're doing. So, so you lose all that, the cohesiveness of your family members, the friends, those that are in the value, they start, distancing themselves. So,
that's right.
I mean, and then you wake up old and you ain't even got burial insurance. You don't have no credible friends. It's just a loose situation.
There's a lot that they're going to do. There's really a lot that they're going to miss out on in life, in general.
That's right. That's right. And
hey, Mr. Wright, what does a second chance for society mean?
What does a second chance?
Yeah, what does a second chance?
Well, at my age, like I say, I'm probably 75 years old now. So at my age, I would like to get involved with trying to lobby for prison reform, for sentencing reform, for more common sense approach, to incarceration, culture of incarceration. So, North Carolina, they just warehousing people, it's so overcrowded. And they just warehousing, And the public, they got a voice in how their money is being spent in these prison systems. But they don't speak up. And those that do,
you have 60 seconds remaining.
The voices are so small that there's no real major impact, So
that's right.
I would like to get involved in something like that and set some second chance initiative.
That's right. If you will, Mr. Terry Wright, you hang on and call back. The Unchained Truth.
Okay.
We'll continue. Back to the Unchained Truth with Mr. Terry Wright. Hey, Mr. Wright, what do you want the people to remember about you?
Well, how to put it, I had a little joke I used to tell, it was like, I always went backwards. My mama would tell me to go right, I went left. Tell me to go left, I go right. Tell me to go up, I go down. So, she finally knew how to get rid of me, so she told me to go to Penn State. And I went to State Penn. But I would like to say, I finally left State Penn and went to Penn State. You know what I mean? As far as it.
That's right.
Psychological. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Got out of that cocoon, from the caterpillar to the butterfly. So that's something that I would like to be, looked at. Somebody who finally got his act together, got his head on straight, and
that's right.
And made a major contribution to the advancement of humankind, That's in the long run. Yeah.
This call is from the North Carolina Correctional Facility.
Hey, Mr. Terry Wright, man, I appreciate this interview, man. It was definitely wonderful. Are there any last words you would like to share with our listeners to the Unchained Truth?
Well, just ask people to find a way, to get involved in making a difference, especially in this environment, because what they say, 90-some% of guys is incarcerated eventually come back into society. And
this call is from the North Carolina Correctional Facility.
Putting some demands, on the legislators and those that are shaping the policies and stuff in these prisons, to bring about a more civilized culture, because a lot of guys just never was given a chance to be civilized. They didn't grow up. They didn't have the opportunity to know what difference in law and order, why you have to have these guardrails in society, about moral discipline, people grew up with sometimes a single mother who was out there struggling, or might have been on drugs herself, and she just gave you to the PlayStation or Xbox, you know, and a feed for yourself in whatever way you could in the neighborhood. So a lot of guys never had the opportunity, you know, to get a good foundation, you know, and that's why I say that socially, politically, and economically, you know, a lot of us are really the products of a failed political, social, economic system. You know, we just a fallout from that. You know? So people have to stop be so self-serving. You know, and how I look themselves in other people's shoes. You know, see which way they walk, had to walk. Try to make a difference.
Hey, Mr. Wright, thank you for sharing your truth, your pain, your lessons, and your hope. Here on the Unchained Truth, we don't just tell stories, we build bridges. Your words today have the power to reach beyond these walls, to spark understanding, and to remind the world that change is possible. To those listening on the outside, never forget behind every prison idea is a human being. To those still inside, your voice is still powerful. Your future is still yours. And your story is not over. We see you, we hear you, and we're fighting with you. Thank you, Mr. Terry Wright, for joining us this day on the Unchained Truth. And until next time, peace with the Unchained Truth.